out at MPs, vowing to have some of them thrown out of the House by marshals.
The Marshal Department, get ready. I'll be compelled to get a marshal to get people arrested and sent out. Parliament is not a place for joking. It's a place for business, serious national business. You make me sick. Will you shut up?
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone and Prime Insurance. Speaker Alban Babing has today been tearing into his deputy, Joe Sowusu, accusing him of offensive conduct. Mr. Sowusu had yesterday overruled an earlier decision by Mr. Babing when the minority NDC side attempted to file a motion requesting for a bipartisan investigation into government's COVID-19 expenditure. Now, Mr. Babing had already admitted that particular motion, but in his absence, when the matter came up for debate, First Deputy Speaker Joe Sowusu was clear Mr. Babing was wrong in admitting it in the first place.
The bipartisan committee is neither a select committee or a standing committee. So let me read Order 191 for our guidance. The House may at any time, by motion, appoint special or ad hoc committee to investigate any matter of public importance, to consider any bill that does not come under the jurisdiction of any of the standing or select committees of the House. A matter of public importance or a bill which does not come under the jurisdiction of any of the standing or select committees of the House. And I think that should be the guiding principle. The matters that we are called upon to set a committee to investigate, can we say they do not come under any of the select or standing committees of the House? In my view, it falls squarely within the Public Accounts Committee. And indeed, all the committees of the House, including the Public Accounts Committee, are bipartisan. And the Public Accounts Committee, by nature, is designed to be chaired by the minority. So in all its forms, in all the questions related to the Public Accounts Committee, if it is minded to investigate anything related to the COVID expenditure, it fully stays with the authority and the power to investigate that, particularly because all the accounting of it have been provided for in the budget, which budget has been presented before the House and it is before the committee anyway. My view is that this motion ought not to have been admitted and is improperly before the House, as so rule.
So that was Joe Sowusu yesterday, overruling what the substantive speaker, Alban Babing, had done. So today, Alban Babing took back the speaker's chair and wasted no time in making his feelings known on this, taking on his deputy.
Another issue that requires addressing is the decision of the First Deputy Speaker to upend my admission of the motion and rule that the motion should not have been admitted in the first place. Honorable members, it is interesting to note that this is the second time the First Deputy Speaker has taken the chair and has made a ruling which in fact was to overrule a position I had earlier on established before the House. In fact, the First Deputy Speaker was in my office. And what I'm telling you today, I told him before he left to the airport. The First Deputy Speaker has contended, and rightfully so, on several occasions, that he is not the Speaker. I have also on several occasions alluded to various areas of parliamentary practice where when the Speaker is in the chair, makes a ruling, another presiding officer may not overturn that ruling. My former statement on the matters arising from the budget and captured in paragraph 46 read as follows, and I quote, "Honorable members, although outstanding orders are silent on this, many standing orders and rules from several sister parliaments provide persuasive rules which suggest that when deputy speakers or acting speakers are in the chair, whatever happens in the House is that officer's responsibility, and the Speaker cannot be called upon to overrule it. Similarly, the reverse is also the case, that when a Speaker is in the chair, whatever happens in the House is the Speaker's responsibility, and the Deputy Speaker or Acting Speaker cannot be called upon to overrule it, unquote. That was what I read to the House that day. The penchant of the First Deputy Speaker to overrule my rulings is, to say the least, unconstitutional, illegal, and offensive.
Let me take you to Parliament now. But Parker Wilson is my parliamentary correspondent, joins us on the telephone line right now. We'll shortly speak to the Member of Parliament and ranking on the Finance Committee, Dr. Atufosing, whose motion it was that generated this whole debate very quickly on what he plans to do now. But Parker, some background here. It appears the Deputy Speaker, George Owusu, had been convinced by the MPP majority side when the matter came up for debate yesterday. Hello, Parker. Hello, Parker. Hello, Parker, can you hear me? We'll get some clarity from Parker very shortly on what has really led to this and how the Deputy Speaker came to the conclusions he's came to. We'll also speak to the Atufosing, who, of course, filed this particular motion. In this motion that he filed, he provides some background to back the points that he was making. He prayed the House to constitute a bipartisan parliamentary committee chaired by a member of the minority caucus to inquire into the expenditure made by the Akufo-Addo-led government in relation to COVID-19 since the outbreak of the pandemic in 2020. And their point was that there has been a deliberate attempt to sort of cover up and lack of accountability in this area. Parker is joining me. Let's get the context to all this for you. Parker, I mean, I get a sense that the George Owusu was convinced primarily by the MPP's arguments, MP's arguments on the floor yesterday.
It appears so, basically because of the arguments advanced by the majority leader, Evans Mensah, and also the deputy majority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin. Now, Afenyo-Markin was quite clear that Parliament has a number of tools available. And so if the minority that the COVID funds have been misapplied, one of the tools you can use, essentially, is to invite the minister, summon the minister before the House, and answer specific questions. Again, the majority leader was of the view that every committee has a specific task in Parliament. And so there is a report by the Auditor General, the 2020 report, which captures the COVID expenditure, and that would be before the Public Accounts Committee. And so there is no way that the House should accept the motion put before the motion put together by the minority.
But the Auditor General has the responsibility to audit the accounts in whatever way these expenditures have been, Mr. Speaker, done, and report to Parliament. After the reports have come to Parliament and we have interrogated them, if there are any malfeasances that we establish, then we establish a committee to deal with it. For now, we have not even done that. For now, this Parliament has not even done that. What's the entailment of this? To jumpstart the imperatives of Article 1876, is that what you intend to do? To undermine the constitutional imperative? To undermine the constitutional imperative? Mr. Speaker, and that is why I'm saying that this really has the purpose of mischief. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, I can't really understand this.
If you say there were some irregularities, for the record, you've not asked any question regarding COVID-19 expenditure. You have not asked any question. That is why I dare say that your application is being mounted in bad faith. If you believe that agencies of government have misapplied, have failed to properly account for, why haven't you filed a question specifically aimed at a minister? That would give you the required result. So, Mr. Speaker, I dare contend again that until that tool is exhausted, this application in its form and shape, and in fact in substance, is in bad faith.
I mean, Parker, so those are the positions articulated by the minority side, which the majority side, which appears to have held sway in the deputy speaker's, overturning of Abang Babing's earlier ruling. I wonder, what was the minority's position on this on the floor yesterday, though?
And Emma, to add to what you said, the first deputy speaker who was in the chair read Order 191, which indicates what you need to do when a motion or a bill is before the House, and the fact that the Public Account Committee is seized with authority to investigate or probe the issue of COVID expenditure. But I must say that the minority leader, Haruna Iddrisu, strongly disagrees with the first deputy speaker and also the majority caucus.
Mr. Speaker, nowhere in this motion is reference made to the word audit. Nowhere in this motion. This motion, the wording are clear. Give words their ordinary meaning. It is only when the primary meaning of words leads to absurdity that is when you employ other words.
So, Parker, the speaker today says the conduct of the deputy speaker in overturning his earlier decision to admit the motion is unconstitutional, is offensive. So, did he say what he's going to do about this?
Evans, he says for him, he won't reverse the decision of the first deputy speaker. But it should be on record that this is not the first time the first deputy speaker has to reverse what he's done, seeking to undermine his authority. You remember the issue of the rejection of the 2022 budget. And so for him, he's only asking the minority that if they think they are upset and have not been treated fairly, they should use the right channel, file a substantive motion, and challenge the decision of the first deputy speaker.
Be that as it may, I shall not be taking any steps to overrule the decision of the first deputy speaker to dismiss the motion as moved by the honorable ranking member of the Finance Committee. The deputy speakers and I will deliberate on how to present a more coherent and uniform structure in respect of rulings so that the House is guided at all times during deliberations. Our standing orders provide the procedure for challenging the rulings of the chair, and those aggrieved by the rulings may take the necessary steps. The proposers of the private members' motion may thus be guided by the standing orders of the House to right the wrong. I hope this is understood. And I repeat, I hope this statement provides a much needed clarity on the matters of dispute that arose yesterday. And I hope we can forge ahead for the common good of the people who have entrusted us with leadership and a mandate to better their lives. The standing orders will guide those who brought the motion, and the property will be done for the House to consider the motion. Please, it's not only you, members of Parliament, who discuss national matters with me.
Well, Dr. Ato Folsom, ranking on the Finance Committee, that motion stood in his name. He joins us right now on the telephone line. Dr. Folsom, so what do you plan to do now?
Well, thank you very much. Let me say that after the statement that the Speaker made today, I have decided to advise myself, obviously working with the leadership of the minority, and to bring back the motion that was moved by myself and seconded by the Honorable Muntaka Mobrak. I say this with a firm belief that as a country, we are where we are in terms of economic difficulties because of government expenditure relating to COVID-19 pandemic. You will agree with me that in the budget statement that was read in the year 2021, government had admitted that in the year 20 alone, they spent an amount of 8.1 billion Ghana cedis only for COVID-19. Again, in the year 2022, in the year 2021, government had spent additional amount that no one knows the quantum. In fact, I'm further strengthened that from the back of the envelope calculation, this government has so far spent up to 10 billion Ghana cedis on COVID-19 related expenditure. 10 billion Ghana cedis without recourse to Parliament. I say this because in the year 2020, when the pandemic broke, the minister responsible for finance had come to Parliament, and the Finance Committee of Parliament, being the only committee with the power to give the Minister of Finance money from the contingency vote, had appropriated an amount of 1.2 billion Ghana cedis for that purpose. Only for the minister to turn around to account to us in a form of expenditure items alone, headline numbers, that they've spent 8.1 billion for the year. And subsequently, they are going to spend more. In fact, if you sit in committee meetings in Parliament, most of the sector ministers that this money went to them, anytime you are interrogating the matter, they tell you that the amount that they claim that they've given to them, the entire amount was not given to them. So clearly, Parliament do not have a handle on the very expenditure that has sent us to economic difficulties. The very expenditures that today has increased our public debt to the extent that the people of Ghana are being called upon to pay additional taxes, we do not have a handle on.
I mean, Dr. Forsing,
That is why I believe that Evans, this matter must not die. I am going to restate the motion, and I believe the Speaker will admit it in line with the Constitution. And Evans, Article 103 of the Constitution is very clear. And Evans, with your permission, let me say that Article 103 under the Committees of Parliament tells you that the Committee of Parliament shall be charged with such functions, including the investigation and inquiry into activities and administration of ministries and departments as Parliament may determine. And such investigation and inquiries may extend to proposals for legislation. Even I'm further strengthened here because we saw COVID for the first time. In my life, I've not seen a pandemic or any epidemic. It is also important that what has happened or what happened in the year 2020 should be able to guide us as a country for us to have a legislation or proposal on how to deal with any major health epidemic or pandemic. And that is why I believe that this will be the starting point. We call for a commission of inquiry. I did not say audit. So let no one in Parliament create impression that what I'm calling for is the work of the Public Account Committee.
I mean, Dr.
Public Account Committee considers reports from the audit service and not to do an audit of this nature. I'm only calling for an inquiry. Simple.
So fundamentally, you want an inquiry into COVID expenditure. But I see in Appendix 12 on page 327 of the budget that was first before your committee and subsequently approved, that there's a tall list of items that the finance minister accounts for, including how much was spent on them. You say this is insufficient?
Evans, it is woefully insufficient.
Because?
What they have provided is headline items. For instance, we were told that an amount of over $100 million was used for the purposes of buying nose masks, hand sanitizers for schools, the second cycle schools reopening. So if you list that headline item, You think we should keep quiet after you telling us you spent almost 600 million Ghana cedis? We want to look at the detail.
What details exactly? If they spend that much, and I see here, for example, another item: provision of free water and electricity for lifeline consumers, 143 million. I mean, what else do you want to know about that number?
You see, Evans, 143 million of taxpayers' money. You don't just spend it and then come to Parliament and say that I've spent 143 million without telling us the detail of the money. How did you arrive at that 143 million? How did you account for it? And how, whether you have paid the money or you haven't paid the money? That is the work of Parliament. Oversight on the public purse is the responsibility of Parliament. And as a ranking member of the Finance Committee, this is my work. I have to ensure there's an oversight on how the public spend their money. And that is why I'm here. So I'm only doing my job. And it's important that I do this job for the people of Ghana, and that is exactly what I'm doing.
I mean, I heard Afenyo Marking say that what you're asking for is in bad faith, and his explanation is that the numbers are already in the budget, and you must have a real basis, I mean, evidential basis to suggest that something untoward is happening beyond what has been accounted for already. I've heard a lot of suspicions tonight from you that you suspect, this is not enough. Isn't this possibly going to be a wild goose chase, spend a lot of money and resources when the numbers are already before you?
Evans, one, there's no numbers before me. What is before me is just a headline numbers, bulk numbers put together. It is someone's responsibility to drill down those numbers. In fact, if we should accept the headline numbers, then there's no need for us to sit as Parliament. It's for the same reason. That is why anytime the minister responsible for finance brings budget before Parliament, the committees of Parliament sit to drill down those numbers and to consider those estimates. In fact, every year, the minister responsible for finance and sector ministers must submit expenditure returns detailing breakdown of those headline expenditures to Parliament for Parliament to consider, approve, and where possible make recommendations to the plenary. Why are they deciding not to do the same for COVID-19 expenditure?
I mean, it was raised.
I'm not saying, without looking at the numbers or without doing the inquiry, that there is wrongdoing. But what I'm saying is that the amount of 10 billion is woefully too much. What I'm saying is that Ghana is not an island. We have Togo by us, we have Ivory Coast by us, we have Nigeria very close to us, and many other countries. They did not spend that kind of money for the purposes of COVID-19 pandemic, the management of COVID-19 pandemic. They did not spend that kind of money. So if you see that single expenditure that has increased your public debt to that magnitude and has sent your country into a major economic difficulties, and you think we should sweep it under the carpet, I beg to differ. I believe that time has come for us to sit and interrogate the matters and for us to understand how this money was spent. And where possible, make some proposals and a possible legislation so that we can regulate this going forward. That is how you build democracy.
So when are you
committed in doing that?
When are you refiling this then?
I hope to have a meeting with the leadership of the Minority Committee tomorrow morning. And if all is well, then same day tomorrow, I'll be able to file the motion again. I think I have various options available. Probably, I may also decide to challenge the Speaker's ruling. But I am not really going to go to do that, because the objective is not to challenge the Speaker, but the objective is for me to get to the bottom of the expenditure that I believe has sent this country into a major economic difficulty.
Well, thank you very much. That is the ranking member on the Finance Committee in Parliament on what he plans to do next on this matter. But let's stay in Parliament a while longer, because the Speaker had not only today been taking on his deputy, he's also been lashing out at members of Parliament generally, using some very strong language. Parker Wilson was on the floor when this all unfolded, and he joins us still. I mean, Parker, so we had the Speaker today threatening to get the marshals to throw out members of Parliament from the House. Very unprecedented. In fact, in one of the instances, he had to ask another member of Parliament to shut up. What prompted all this?
Evans, some of the members of Parliament are in the practice of and engaging in some chit chat and murmuring when the Speaker is addressing the House. And it is the practice and the rules of Parliament that anytime the Speaker is addressing the House, the members listen in silence. But it appears that over the last few years, members are, and some of them will be chatting, others will be heckling themselves, which is unconstitutional and unparliamentary. So this practice has got the Speaker upset. And today, he could not take that. He lashed out at members of Parliament and threatened them that going forward, any MP who engages in such a practice, of course, he will direct the marshal to walk the person out.
There is no parliament that I know when the Speaker is talking, members are also talking. Speakers are heard in silence for good reason. And as I read this formal statement, you come to understand why I have said what I have said. Parliaments I have traveled, witnessed, read, and at least I think I know a lot that you may not have gone through. What is happening in this parliament is completely unacceptable. And I'm not sure you have appreciation of the temperature of the country. Neither am I sure you know the arduous nature of the responsibility that have been placed on your shoulders. You are all mature adults. What I'm talking about is still happening. The Marshal Department, get ready. I'll be compelled to get a marshal to get people arrested and sent out. You are saying, hey, Parliament is not a place for joking. It's a place for business, serious national business. The Parliament we are in has never been in Ghana, even Gold Coast. This is a different type of Parliament. We might be prepared to change, to accept the decision of the people and work together. You make me sick. Will you shut up? You rule out of order in the House.
On Newsnight tonight, do you agree with the Speaker? Let me hear from you.